So here comes another thing. The reason... So, again, I will always sort of say this when I'm going to Predator, Alien, all of this stuff. I watch Predator because I'm trying to watch this new Alien film. That it's about new cast, Alien something or other. And I was like curious if it was a good thing. And I was like, Joe, I feel like I need to catch up with the Alien series and see if any of it's useful or not. And then there's also, as you can see here, Alien vs. Predator, which I don't know if it is canon to either one of the series. But because I think it may or may not be canon to either one of the series, I am going to watch all of Predator and watch it in order. And yes, I have a full list of like the shows I'm watching around both Alien and Predator. That's why you would have a couple of this. Anyway, that's what's going to be in a couple of the Alien and Predator things, which I don't think until Alien 3, which is on the 6th. There's not going to be many of them left. Actually, the 6th and then the 11th, where 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. Where there is going to be me looking at Alien Resurrection, but that's besides the point. Anyway, the one thing which I wanted to say, which is more specific, is in general, with this, one of the things that is in this is, last one was straight up an action. This one feels like sort of like a buddy cop, and I know the streets look horrible, but I think it's really interesting. And let's go into the spoilery section because I kind of want to talk a bit more about that. So yeah, what do I want to talk about? Because one, I'm going to be honest, besides the background, which I like because I like how big they are. Because this one you get like really detailed like buildings and this, and the sets are quite detailed around specific areas. Where the first Predator, you're in a forest. That's not complaining the first Predator set being a forest. It's just you don't get like a lot of like details in a forest. Surprisingly anyone, you don't get much detail when you're in a random forest and you are just surrounded by trees. And you just get more trees. And I don't mean detail as in there's like just 1 or 2 trees. There are a lot of trees, vines and this stuff. But what I mean is that you don't get like deep buildings like sort of like, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense because that's like this. And you get multiple different sets in Predator 2, which in Predator 1 you don't, because again, forest. But overall, I'm not complaining, I just have that as a point, and I do like some of the sets. The one thing I am going to complain though is some of the scenes are really choppy. And I don't know if that's what they were stylizing for. Oh, red light. Oh, well, I have plugged it. Oh, well, who cares? Because of, like, it being, like, in the city, there's a scene where, like, it's from the alien perspective, and some of it's, like, it's chopped so much that it's not that you can't know what's going on. You can. You fully can. It's hard, and I'm not a fan of it. I do like the end, because I like the figuring out, solving. I know the whole thing was meant to be, ooh, who's this? Who's this thing here? Whereas, like, that's the alien. But I get that. I'm fine with that. That makes sense. It's like, but from their perspective, it makes sense because, like, they don't know when the alien is. But from our perspective, I thought they could have had that for less time. Like, oh, what's the alien? And then the government eventually, like, for the first one, it's like, where you have, like, them going to a building being like, oh, you shouldn't see this. And then they have another building and they're like, oh, yes, the alien is... Because you have the first interaction and someone gets, like, skinned alive, like they did in the last one. And they're like, oh, we don't know what this is. And it's like, etc., etc. At the second time they do it, they should have just been like, okay, this is a natural problem and we have someone who knows the cities. I think it takes to the point of him discovering. I also like at the very end, one, you get the whole chase scene, which is somewhat decent, but the one thing I like the most is when he kills the alien, the other predators show up, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna die, so I'm gonna see how many I can take out before I die. But you just see them pick up the body and leave. I'm like, that's somewhat respectable. It's like, you killed my friend, we kill yours. I think we will leave now. And they just leave. I'm like, that's interesting. Because, like, I don't know what it says about them, but they just leave. And go. But again, this is okay. I feel like it would be more fun talking more, because, like, we didn't know much about the Predator last time. Because you have a whole task force, I feel like I would want to see them more. I don't know. I don't mind it. I don't hate it. I just find it fine. It's, like, decent. A couple of the scenes near the beginning I don't like, but I like when you get, like, the big action scene where you actually have the task force and, you know, all of them die one by one. That sort of figuring out how the alien can be killed, and I think him taking his weapon, I think is really interesting. So yeah, that idea I just thought was, like, really interesting overall. So yeah. I thought it was a bit, I prefer more the ending than the beginning, but yeah, that's what it is. I wouldn't really recommend it, but if you want to watch, it's not, I don't know, because the last film wasn't really important, besides it being named, doesn't have any characters that come from the last one, but yeah, you can watch it if you want. So I hope you enjoy, and good night.